Welcome back to another episode. Today I got my amazing clicker, so professor-like. We're talking about student evaluations. Students fill these out at the end of every semester, but what happens after you fill them out? Today I'm going to read mine live. Well, recorded. You know what I'm saying. You're going to see my reaction to my student evaluations. Fall 2021, by all means, was the most difficult semester ever. So I don't know how students will react to that semester. I know it was tough for them as well. So let's go through these evaluations together. There's a love-hate relationship when it comes to student evaluations. For students, they love giving the feedback, but often what I hear is they don't know if faculty are taking that feedback into consideration. So it's like, why have me fill out these evaluations if nobody reads it? I read them. And I know other faculty members do too, but from a faculty standpoint, the research has indicated that student evaluations are biased. I understand faculty's hesitation with some of the comments that they may receive in student evaluations. I could tell you, for me personally, I've gotten some off-the-wall comments in the past that really don't have to do anything with the instruction, and so I understand this bias. But as I talk about my evaluations today, know that I'm a male talking about my student evaluations, which bias the research has indicated, would be on my side. With that said, that's where the love-hate relationship with respect to evaluations comes into place. 65% of my annual evaluation, yes, I'm a tenured faculty, but I'm evaluated annually. 65% of it comes from my teaching portfolio, and that also includes teaching evaluations. So they matter. I read them. I take students' comments into consideration, and I try to apply them to make future classes better. So today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and there's no ugly. So before we get started, I want to tell you that I'm not going to go through every single comment in my evaluations, but I know you are really interested in reading all of the evaluations, so I'm going to make them as part of my newsletter this Tuesday. So sign up for the Substack linked below so you could get the evaluations, you could read through them, and you could see all the comments that are posted. At the end of this, I'll talk about the changes that I'm making for spring 2022 with some of these comments in mind. To get a better understanding of the evaluations, let's talk about the structure of my class in the fall of 2021. Due to the pandemic, class attendance was not mandatory. I never actually have class attendance as mandatory. I believe students are adults. They could come and go as they like, but I usually have in-class assessment in the past. During the pandemic, all of my assessment has been done virtually. So what I've done is I flipped the classroom. Students receive the content in video form and textbook and readings outside of class. They are assessed outside of class. So what happens in class is discussion-based and bringing these economic concepts to life and how it impacts the students specifically on the personal level. As an economic educator, I believe that it's really important to know all of the economic content, but it's even more important to know why that matters to you, and bringing it to life and how it impacts the students is what I believe my value added is as an economic educator. So since attendance was not mandatory and there were no in-class assessments, I had about 10 to 20% of my class attend on a regular basis, with the rest of the students being transient, just showing up when they needed help or if they wanted to ask some questions. This was really tough for me as an instructor. I love being inside of the classroom with students. I feed off of the students' energy, and for a while there, I got fixated with the quantity versus quality measure. I was focused on how many students don't show up rather than focusing on how many students are actually there and the quality of the discussion that we had. I had to change my mindset, something that I'm going to have to keep for spring 2022. For all the students that showed up every single class, I appreciate you. Thank you. So let's dig deep into the evaluations. We're going to go through some of the graphical representations, and then we'll go into the comments that were provided. So the first assessment that is provided in the evaluation is students' self-assessment of themselves, and here we're asking if students were well prepared for each class session. So did they prepare to come to class? Students in my class reported a 4.4 score out of 5, And in NKU's evaluation, we get the course mean, the department mean, and the university mean. The question on I consistently attended this course clearly indicates the problem that I was talking about with respect to attendance. There was a 3.8 score out of 5, whereas the university and the department mean is much higher than that. Is attendance necessary? Is it mandatory? These are all questions that we're all grappling with right now, but I scored really low. Students did not attend my class as much as they attended other classes. The next set of questions asks about the instructor and the course assessment. These are all great to look at, and I evaluate them. The last 2 questions are things that I focus on a lot, and that is the instructor stimulated interest in and beyond, and broadened the interest beyond the course material to the subject matter. And I scored a 4.6 out of 5 out of that on that. And overall, I feel the instructor was effective. I scored 4.6 out of 5. So all in all, good measures. The next questions are with respect to environment and my ability to explain. The question on it, the instructor created an atmosphere that is favorable to learning, 4.6 out of 5. Thank you. I spent a lot of time building a sense of belonging and building the classroom environment. That's what my research is on. So thank you for pointing that out. The instructor's explanation of the subject matter was helpful. 4.8 out of 5. I'll take that. That's a really good number. Over the years, I've ranged between 4.6 to 4.8, and given that this was the most difficult semester of my academic career, I'm glad this is on the top end of that range. NKU this year started to include a measure of sentiment when it comes to the comments that students provided. 65% of the comments that were provided expressed a sentiment of joy. 4% expressed a sentiment of anger, and 23% of sadness. I'll tell you, I don't think this is actually very accurate at this point, but I love that NKU's including this. Let's pull some of these comments that students provided, and I'll pick 2 at a time from each of these questions. The first question is with respect to attendance, and student said, I went to some classes, but not nearly as many as I would have liked. I was involved in work full-time to start the semester, which caused me to miss class time. But the fact that I was able to build a relationship with this professor shows how good he really is. And I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. The thing that I would like to point out is students are tempted to not show up to class when they know it's the best thing for them. And that's a behavioral economic concept. We could talk about that some other time. But this is something that we need to keep in mind. We keep on hearing that students want in-person education. They want in-person education. But when given the choice, they do something differently. We have to be conscious about that as well, especially going to spring 2022 semester. The next comment says, I don't think attendance is required in order to do well in this class. Correct, that's by design. But I enjoyed the discussion we had, so I did come to class. I would suggest a more structured class time for going over the answers to the practice problems on Thursdays. We got better with that as the semester went on. I liked when the class discussion deepened my understanding of the material, but it was easy for us to get off topic. We still had great discussions when we were off topic, but it wasn't helping me learn the material. And this is a really helpful comment. There's many layers to it, and I appreciate the comment. One thing that I walk away thinking is all the discussions that I have in my classroom, I believe are connected to the content and material. Maybe I need to do a better job of selling it to the students so they could see the connection. The other thing that I'd like to point out is our students are so used to learning for the exam or learning for the assessment that any learning that is beyond the assessment or the material seems like it's a waste of time. And this is something that we really need to change. This conversation I have with my students, I need to have it more often because learning is important in general, and some of the discussions that we had might have not had a one-on-one direct connection, but we're connected to the overall material that we were learning. So something to keep in mind as an educator and as a student. It's up to you to also try to figure out where the connection is and how that impacts your overall understanding of the subject matter. Atmosphere in the classroom. As I said, this is something that I'm working a lot on. So students were asked, what did I do with regard to creating an atmosphere favorable for learning? And students said, this class is by far the best class to learn. And not just the material you need to learn, but the professor does an amazing job relating the class to real world. And that's what we need. And this goes back to the previous comment. So this student saw the connection between what they're learning, how it improves their lives. And that's something that I try to do in my classroom. Is it's really important to know the economic concept, but how does this really impact the student? I believe all economics is important, economic theory is important, but how do you personalize that? And I think students are going to learn it better if they truly believe or they truly see the connection to their overall well-being. The next comment is really interesting. And the next comment says, I like that you made sure all of your students knew their lens was valued and important. I like the quotation around lens. And this tells me that the student, I probably said lens in class and the student listened to me, but most importantly that the student recognized that I truly believe it. I truly believe that we're all better off by having diverse students, diverse thought, diverse opinions, and for us to learn from each other and learn how economics can help us sharpen our own opinions, our own lenses, and understanding of how the world works. But we need that discussion. It needs to happen in the classroom. Course difficulty. This is really important to me because as an economic educator, I hear this often. There's this assumption in the market that if you are a great educator, or your evaluations, let me rephrase that, if your evaluations are great, then it is because you have diluted the rigor of the classroom. Students love you because you're easy. I hear that often. That's not necessarily the case. So something over here to show you what my students have said. He makes the course easy to navigate. So students recognize that there's a difference between difficulty navigating the course and difficulty in understanding the content or doing well on the exams. And sometimes as instructors, we mix those two things up. We think that making things complicated and uncertain for the students is, building their knowledge of the subject matter. No, you're just creating headaches for the students. So navigate the class easily, but expect them to understand the content. And the student says some of the content is difficult to wrap your head around, a lot of equations and a lot of graphs. So you could be an effective educator and still be rigorous. If you have the assumption that you don't, then give me a call. Let's talk about this. What would you do differently? This is for the students in spring 2022 or all future students of mine. This is what you need to learn. How would previous students do things differently? They would take better notes. Reach out to the professor if they need help. Please, my office hours, discussion hours is what I call them, are available to you. Stop by my office. Stop by after class. I am here to help you learn economics better, help you navigate academia better. Reach out. The last comment over here says, I would have tried to attend more classes if circumstances were different. I'm sure I would have performed even better if I had continued to attend. Attendance is really important. Make sure to do that. I know it's not mandatory. Recognize that you do learn more by showing up to the classroom. And then as far as conversations that stimulate interest, the student said, didn't know I could learn so much about macroeconomics and have never walked away from a class that has ever left me with such a lasting impression. Thank you. Kept me engaged in class every class period, and I attended every class beside the time I was quarantined. I know, one of the unfortunate events of the COVID pandemic. Thank you for attending all of the other classes. This last comment, often we would have discussions over matters that deepen my understanding of the subject being studied. One time we had a discussion over social media and how it affects people, and this is, to this date, has been one of my favorite interactions with a professor. I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I don't remember the discussion. And this is something that we as professors need to keep in mind, that some of the things that we say in the classroom impact students positively or negatively, right? So we need to be a little bit more conscious about the things that we say. I really wish I would have remembered this conversation. I'm sure it had to do with some of the concepts that we were covering in class, but I don't remember that lesson. If you're a student that left that comment, reach out to me, remind me what that discussion was about. But the note as an instructor that we need to take is sometimes we say things and they're impactful and they resonate with students. We might not be aware, positively or negatively, that we're saying that. We need to be conscious about that. What did the instructor do to help you learn in the course? The videos. There are videos you can watch on his YouTube channel. What a phenomenal idea. I love that because when I first started posting my videos on YouTube, it wasn't well received and I was vulnerable. I put myself out there, and to hear that the students appreciate them and they see the value means a lot to me. So the videos show up several times. Dr. A was the best professor I ever had. He really cares about his students and wants them to get involved. Although I don't care too much for economics, he made it very fun class to learn. We need to talk. Everybody should care about economics. Economics is just so amazing, but I appreciate your honest feedback. The recommendations that were provided is pretty much students want more structure in the classroom. They want to know how this connects to the material, to the content, to the assessment. And as I indicated, there's pros and cons to that, but I need to do a better job of selling to the students why we need to have these larger discussions. They might not be assessed directly, but they help you learn the material better. So that's something that I'm going to be doing spring 2022. One, adding some structure in the classroom, but two, telling them why, when the structure deviates, why it's important for them to be engaged with that content. So this is a quick look at my student evaluations. If you want to see the actual evaluations, check my Substack out. It's going to come out this next Tuesday with the evaluations included. I'm looking forward to spring 2022. Students, it's going to be an amazing semester. I know we're starting off with a lot of uncertainty, but my role over here is to help you navigate and go through the semester. We're in this together. We're going to get through it. What we need is a line of communication. Reach out to me. Let me hear from you. And remember, your perspective, your lenses matter, and I am looking forward to teaching you economics this semester. Remember to like, share, leave a comment. I want to hear, did you really enjoy this exercise? Is this something that you found valuable? As a student, what are your thoughts? As a faculty member, what are your thoughts? You want to go on video and share your student evaluations? See y'all next week.